I'm going to have a little relationship rant here. Listen, I've been doing this channel just under 3 years now, and I just want to give you guys a bit of context. There's not going to be a lot of support videos because I want you guys to see what I have learned over the 60 years of my existence. I'll be 60 in the next, 5 months, 6 months, 4 months, 5 months, anyway. Point is that I come to you with a shitload of experience in life. Growing up in the Caribbean, understanding that in order for you to actually get any success with women, you had to have lyrics. You have to have the ability to speak to women, especially if you're not classically beautiful, if you're not, if you didn't grow up in a wealthy family, etc. I came in just at the 6 foot frame, which was to my advantage in some respects, I guess. But understanding women and female behavior was a paramount part of being a man. And learning these things from my father and his friends and other men that I grew up with during my era, we got to understand women significantly. But we also understood that within the lyrics, we called it lyrics back in those days. It's basically having the ability to speak to women and telling them what they want to hear. Most of it is just embellished lies. What you guys call game today was just part and parcel of what we understood as if you tell a woman what she wants to hear, and you pretty much get what you want. So this idea that men are always lying to women is actually true. If a man wants to get into your pants, ladies, he will lie to you. But it doesn't just come from one side. You ladies know that in order to attract a man, you have to lie to him. You don't want to confess your body count. You wear makeup, you put on the BBLs, you put in the fake titties. I mean, you do everything to attract a man. You lie to him as well, right? Because you know that if you confess right out of the block that, hey, last week I slept with another guy. Last week I slept with your cousin. Last month I had 3 guys in my bedroom. If you tell him these things, you know that your possibilities of him taking you serious or respecting you will drop significantly. Therefore, you lie to him. In turn, that man lies to you. So please don't get on your high horses about, oh, men are liars. Blah. You lie all the time. Every single freaking day, women lie. So there is this bumping of the liars that comes together, right? Now, so this is what I call the mask. We both wear masks when we meet each other. And one of the reasons I'm telling you this story is because I always tell you about my 40-year-old friend who I always meet in the gym practically every morning. We always have these conversations. I'm still trying to find her a man. Bear in mind, this started out 2 years ago, right? When she was 38, I started then, and I haven't been successful yet. And she hasn't been successful at finding a man. So I was explaining this concept to her that women never know who men are. And women never put in enough effort to understanding who men are. Because women want men to lie to them. And she said, no, this is bullshit. No, that's a lie. That's not true. I know a lot of men. I said, no, you don't know the man. You know the men who telling you a bullshit story who wants to fuck you. Of course, she got really offended by this accusation. How dare you? Men don't just lie to me because they want to sleep with me. And I said, okay, what make you think you know men? Well, no, I've been on a lot of dates. I said, you think that these men are telling you the truth? Well, most of them. I said, no, you don't know men. I said, let me explain this to you. When 2 men are talking to each other and a woman walks into our space, do you think we continue talking the way we talk to each other when we're together as men? She said, yeah, why not? I said, no, we don't. We don't freaking continue the same way of speaking. You would be disgusted and revolted by that, the way men speak, especially if we were talking about women. And she literally said, no, I don't think so. I said, listen to me, my friend. I want you to try to understand who you're talking to. Do you realize that I'm 20 years older than you? That means when I were in the nightclubs, you weren't even prepared to come out of your father's balls yet. Do you understand that? When I was in the nightclub getting laid, you weren't even conceived in your mother's brain yet. Do you understand that? Of course, she responded with a laugh and okay, that's disgusting. Like, you didn't have to put it like that. I said, okay, I'm just trying to be very straightforward with you because that's how a man would talk to another man. But you can't handle that shit. You can't handle that truth. But a man's brain can easily conceive that information and go, yeah, you know what? Fuck, he's right. He's right. Yeah. So this woman had to understand this. So I said, okay, let me do this experiment. Let's just pick a random guy in here and ask him what I'm telling you and ask him to confirm it. So first guy crossing, I said, excuse me. Just so you know, we were working out on the tricep machine. She was doing her triceps. And so I touched the guy that was walking across, and he took off his headphones and said, yes, sir. How are you? And I said, good, man, good. Can I ask you a very simple question? If you and I were talking to each other, right, and a woman walks into the conversation, would our conversation automatically change the way we're speaking to each other and how we're talking to each other? Would it change? And the guy said, yes, of course. And she's looking at us both, and I could see her immediately just go, really? And he looked at her and he said, yes, of course. You're a beautiful woman. You don't have to listen to what men have to say. And I said, there we go. Here we go. And she is flabbergasted by this information at 40 years old. She's freaking flabbergasted. So I asked the gentleman, where are you from, sir? And he said, I'm from Egypt. He was probably in his late 40s or early 50s. I said, there you go. And she said, no, he was just probably a fluke. And I said, okay, let's ask the next guy. Tall dude walks across, buffed, headphones on. Had to freaking almost slap him on the back for him to recognize that somebody was trying to get his attention. Big sweaty dude. And I said, brother, I'm looking up at him. He was about 6'3", 6'4". I said, brother, can I have a second with you? And he said, yeah, sure. Ask him the same question. He said, yes, of course. Of course, that's how men are. And she's looking up at this guy. And once again, I said, there you go. I said, where are you from, brother? He says, I'm from Lebanon. Boom. 2 different nationalities, same shit she's hearing. Now, she's enjoying this interaction because this is the most interaction she's had with a variety of men. She's like, okay, let's do one more. So, okay, next guy came across, shorter dude, younger, and asked him the same question. Same freaking answer. Where are you from, sir? Kenya. Same freaking answer. So finally, she got it. She can't accept it, but she's feeling the reality of the situation that she's in. And this, my friend, is what I call the relationship paradox. Because we are now at a point in the relationship atmosphere where the chasm, the space between males and females is so freaking wide that we're not coming together at all. We're touching, we're hooking up, but that's not a relationship. And so I have concluded when 2 people get together in today's environment, both of them have not had relationship skills, meaning they come from single family homes, which a large percentage of people would have. So they have never seen relationships in action. They've never seen arguments, makeup, breakups, makeup, kissing, arguing. That is the normal ebb and flow of a relationship, right? They've never seen daddy's in charge. They've never seen any healthy relationship. So that's the biggest problem. Because what they've only seen is, okay, on 4 days out of the week, I'm with mommy in her house, and 3 days out of the week, I'm with daddy. And the only time I see them interact is with short answers but no intimacy at all. Most of the time they're arguing. And so that is their reference for relationships. Cool? So that's what I call no relationship experience. So no exposure to relationships. And then combine that with a hookup culture where they're only coming together for temporary satisfaction and enjoyment. So there is no deep interaction. So the mass that we both enter into these interactions with are never given a time to be taken off, because the mere fact that I need to get to know the other person is the equivalent of I need to stay with that individual long enough for them to relax, be themselves, stop lying, and removing the mask. That is essential. But most people don't get to that point. They don't. Because the second they see the difference between the man they met and the man that now reveals himself, they then start to call that man a liar, and the mistrust kicks in. Women don't realize that she's been freaking lying to him as well. They don't take that into consideration. they start to accuse the man of freaking lying. And then she immediately withdraws. And because she has a lot of options in her DMs or in her dating apps, she then starts to look at the other men because she saw the mass dropping on this guy. So the mistrust kicks in. And of course, it happens on the other side. The man thinks that, hey, she's beautiful, she's nice. They went out for a few dinners. They were nice. Everything was cool. And then she slipped. Something slipped in. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a few guys, back in high school or back in college. Yeah. Oh, I had a lot of fun. Red flag freaking jumps up. The guy gets revolted. And listen, it can happen casually. Because in reality, both parties want to relax with the opposite sex. We each want to get to that point where, hey, I can relax with this guy. Oh, I can relax with this woman. That means I don't have to keep up the mask. That means I can, share a few stories of my history. And, they should be able to understand and appreciate that I have history. But of course, we're conditioned by social media to think that these are all massive red flags that you don't freaking enter that relationship on any serious basis whatsoever. So both parties withdraw. Usually it's from the female side because she has options. The men don't withdraw from the relationship. He will basically keep the woman there if they're having sex. If they're having sex, he'll keep her there because it's not often a man can freaking find a woman that's going to give him free sex, right? So she will be placed in the sex box. If the woman displays that she's promiscuous or she's not someone that is wife material, he'll put her in the sex box or until another option pops up. Because we know, gentlemen, the only time women find you attractive is when you have another woman with you. Just so you ladies understand. When a man don't have any woman with him, right? And he's not a high value man, he's not flashy. But the second he takes out a woman on a date and other women see that, oh, those bitches are going to be after him. And that's the visual part of it. But also understand that when a man is on his own, aloneness and the loneliness creeps in because he carries a smell of desperation when he goes out, right? Women can smell that. They can detect that, and they don't like that smell. When a man has another woman in that air of, I don't really give a shit about any of these bitches, really. My balls are empty. I'm good. That's why in my early days, all the OGs used to say, hey, when you're going out, before you go out at the nightclub, right? You rub one out, blow that load. So whenever you're in the nightclub, you don't have that, I need to get some. That's gone. Now, that was back in the day when men were full of freaking testosterone. In today's environment, I don't advise that because most men don't have that level of testosterone anymore. They still have to have that sense of hunger, but without looking desperate. That's what you got to understand. A woman can detect that shit, but she still needs to feel that, shit, this sucker got some testosterone in him. She feels it. We are animals. In essence, you guys got to understand our animalistic instincts always drives us. Our biology is strong. So understand that this is just who we are as a species. But back to my point. So the solution to this misalignment, when both parties recognize that there's something there that I don't like, you have to look at the big picture. Most of us just pick away at the small little things. Can I get over that? Yeah, I know he's lying. Oh, I know she's lying. But is that problem big enough to make her a non-viable candidate? This is what you need to ask yourself. For men, it would be, shit. If she told me she only slept with 5 guys, I know I got to multiply that by at least 4. So we're up to 20. Can I deal with that? How big is her student loan? Is she responsible with her money? Is she slightly overweight now, or was she even bigger earlier in life? You need to know these things, because you know that if she's coming down from 300 pounds and now she looks good, half that weight, or she's just under 200, you know the second she has her first child, yeah, she's going to balloon back up to 300 pounds. You need to know these things. So you need to evaluate what is it that you can overlook. Ladies, from your perspective, you got to look at the man's future. You got to look at the man's potential of moving forward from where he is right now. Is he in debt? Does he have investments? Does he have a home? What kind of car does he drive? Is it flashy? So flashy that he spent a lot of money on this car and he's not practical about his finances? Or is this just for show? You got to look at a lot of things. Does he make me get away with spending his money? And if that's the case, that's not a good sign, because is it sustainable? Why is he not investing that money? Why is he making me take advantage of him? That's how good women should think. So once we get across all of those questions, then we just say, all right, let's work on this a little bit more. Let's see where we can compromise with each other. If you don't do that, you're back to stage one. Both of you back out on the street looking for the next freaking hookup. And the cycle just repeats itself. And that, my friends, is what I call the paradox of relationships. Let me know what you think if I got any part of that wrong. Because in essence, nobody's in a freaking serious relationship. Everybody's in situationships, hookups, and temporary this, temporary, I don't know, so many freaking names for them nowadays. So anyway, that's my rant for today. Let me know what you guys think. Listen, guys, feel free to use this video and share this conversation with other people. Or if you want to critique it, if you want to respond to it, feel free. And of course, this goes with all of my videos. Okay? So my friends, subscribe, book a session if you need any help with me. And of course, like this video on the way out. So till tomorrow, remember, whenever in doubt, always, always ask an older man. I'll see you soon. Cheers.